The ceremony is about to begin. Sound assembly. March on the colors. Colors, order arms, parade rest. The invocation will be delivered by Father Joseph L. Narog, OSA, pastor of St. Thomas of Villanova Parish.
Good morning. In the quiet sanctuaries of our own hearts, let each of us name and call on the one whose power over us is great and gentle, firm and forgiving, holy and healing. We remember and give thanks for those who have given their lives in service of our country. When the need was greatest, they stepped forward and did their duty to defend the freedoms that we enjoy and to win the same for others. Help us to honor their memory by caring for the family members they have left behind, by ensuring that their wounded comrades are properly cared for, by being watchful caretakers of the freedoms for which they gave their lives. Holy One, help us to remember that freedom is not free. There are times when its cost is indeed dear. Never let us forget those who paid so great a price to ensure that freedom would be our legacy. May we never forget what they have done. Help us to be worthy of their sacrifice. O God, help us to be worthy. O God, help us to work for justice and peace. Amen.
Thank you, Father. Colors, attention. That's you. President Arms. That's all right, I got it. Yeah, you got it. I can't. Okay. Please join Serena Kuhn, Poppy Queen of Bateman Gallagher, American Legion Post 668, in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Serena. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the national colors at the War Memorial as the Valley Forge Military Academy and College Regimental Band plays our national anthem. Color Order Arms, Parade Rest. Now, in keeping with our Memorial Day Parade Committee tradition of selecting one of our area residents as an honored speaker it is our privilege to present Mr. James Ask, a veteran of the United States Navy. James Ask, former U.S. Navy officer and naval aviator who served for 9 years on active duty, exiting with the rank of lieutenant. During his service, James led his maritime patrol and reconnaissance aircrew in global operations with distinction and concluded his time on active duty as an instructor at the Maritime Patrol and Reconnaissance Weapons School. Following his military service, James continues his commitment to service as an ambassador for the Travis Manion Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to developing character in future generations by empowering veterans and families of the fallen. James also serves on the Board of Trustees for the Bryn Mawr Hospital Foundation and on the Board of Directors for the Council for Relationships, an organization that provides therapy, education, and research to improve behavioral health and interpersonal relationships. In addition, he is a member of the Investment Committee at Williamson College of the Trades in Media, PA. He is a graduate of the United States Naval Academy and holds an MBA from the University of Florida. James is currently a managing director with Fiduciary Trust International and lives in Radnor with his wife, Mary Jane, and their 3 children, Betsy, James, and Lizzie. Lieutenant, Ask.
Thank you very much, Marty. Good morning. The first Memorial Day commemorations began in the years following the Civil War as a way for a traumatized nation and surviving service members and their families to effectively grieve together and keep the memories of nearly 500,000 fallen comrades. These services began to coalesce in the month of May and gravitate towards the end of the month. For 100 years, our nation would continue in this tradition in communities all across the country, enduring more conflicts, including 2 world wars, before the holiday was officially authorized by Congress and signed into law. Memorial Day, memory, remember. What are we remembering? Since the American Revolution nearly 250 years ago, over 1.2 million Americans have given their lives in service to this country. The holiday itself is so that we can all set aside time to remember the men and women who paid the ultimate price to make the lives we live today possible. Sons, daughters, fathers, mothers. It's a big ask to grasp the scale and magnitude. It's my hope over the next 5 minutes that you'll help me overcome the emotional disconnect that's only natural when we humans are confronted by such large numbers. It's really not our fault. It's neuroscience. If successful, we'll also overcome a second and more insidious trick our brains play on us on occasions like these. It can best be described in the words of a former president, Ronald Reagan. This is what he said. It is in a way an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our minds as old and wise. We see them as something like founding fathers, grave and gray-haired. But most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up 2 lives. The one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands, fathers, and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country and for us. And all we can do is remember. It was a nice introduction from Marty, but I think the reason that I'm here is to make this personal. And I'll share 2 stories, or the 2 heroes it was my honor to know. The first, you could hear in my bio, the Travis Manion Foundation, and is to remember Travis Manion from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. In addition to Travis, and Travis was a classmate of mine at the United States Naval Academy, is another classmate Brendan Looney from Owings, Maryland. These were classmates who were also friends. Travis lived by the motto, "If not me, then who?" And if you're familiar with that foundation, you know those words. Travis was the son of a career Marine. He graduated near the top of our class. He was also a standout wrestler who was recognized by his teammates with the Weems Award, which is given to leadership and dedication. Seems like he was destined for greatness. Only it gets a little more interesting. Travis actually left the Naval Academy after his freshman year. We call it plebe year. He didn't find what he was looking for when he left and wanted to come back very badly. It's extremely rare that someone gets to come back. Travis did. And when he did, he would become roommates with his new brother and best friend, Brendan Looney. Travis was commissioned a U.S. Marine upon graduation almost 21 years ago this week. He deployed to Iraq twice. The second time he was to go back, he was going back as an elite force recon Marine. Travis, being a devoted Philadelphia sports fan, prior to deployment, surely celebrating an Eagles victory, leaving the link, was kidded by his brother-in-law that maybe if he pushed Travis down the stairs, he would get hurt just enough not to go on deployment, but not enough to ruin the rest of his life. Travis' response was grave. "If not me, then who? If I don't go, someone less prepared takes my place. And I can't let that happen." On April 29th, 2007, less than 3 years after we threw our hats in the air for graduation, Travis and fellow Marines were ambushed in Iraq's Anbar province. As he led the counterattack, Travis was fatally wounded by a sniper while aiding his wounded teammates. He deliberately exposed himself to heavy enemy fire to draw fire away from wounded Marines. His selfless and courageous actions that day allowed every member of his patrol to survive. And for his actions, he was awarded the Silver Star and Bronze Star with Valor. What's less well known is another member of his unit survived that day as well. Travis wasn't actually supposed to go on that mission. The officer who was going to lead the mission had been having a tough time. Travis was scheduled to go on a humanitarian mission. He was supposed to hand out crayons to kids at a local school. His fellow Marine needing a break, and Travis, "If not me, then who?" stepped up to lead the mission, saved Marines, and he traded crayons for counterinsurgency. It's my pleasure to say that as of January of this year, the Secretary of the Navy has seen fit to name a U.S. naval warship the Travis Manion, which will be commissioned shortly. To personalize this, Travis was 26-years-old when he passed. My children are sitting up here with me today. Kids, that's how old I was when I married your mother. Just as Travis embodied leadership and sacrifice, Brendan showed us resilience and quiet strength. Brendan lived by the motto, "Be strong, be accountable, never complain." I met Brendan on a Naval Academy football field following 6 weeks of grueling plebe summer. We were all much skinnier than we were at playing weight, but we finally got to put on some pads and let out some much-needed pent-up aggression. Brendan was a fullback. I was playing linebacker. I hit him as hard as I could, and he didn't move. I realized I was playing at a different level. Eventually, following plebe year in football, we were both encouraged to play something else. I led a less than illustrious career as an intramural athlete. Brendan decided to do something different. He decided to switch from football to lacrosse. Brendan had no experience in organized lacrosse, despite being a standout athlete at DeMatha Catholic. Brendan tried out the spring of our sophomore year and made Navy's nationally ranked lacrosse team. 2 seasons later, as a senior, Brendan, alongside his 2 brothers, Billy, class of 2007, and Stephen, class of 2006, led Navy on an unbelievable run and a shot at an NCAA championship. Unfortunately, Navy lost the title game to Syracuse that year in overtime. but the importance of family, teamwork, and maximum effort was on full display during the successful run of Navy's 2004 lacrosse season. Less well known are the other challenges Brendan faced. Brendan was colorblind, which disqualifies him for many active line service roles. He couldn't drive a ship, fly a plane, let alone be what he ultimately wanted to be, a Navy SEAL. He was commissioned an intelligence officer and completed tours in Iraq and Korea, but never gave up on his dream. One can only imagine the letter-writing campaign that he had to pursue and the types of physical fitness scores he had to put up to get granted a waiver to finally begin the grueling training program from Navy SEALs called BUDS. Brendan showed up to BUDS, and then Travis passed away while he was in training. Finally receiving a coveted slot and not wanting to jeopardize his dream of being a SEAL, and with the blessing of his adopted parents, the Manions, he continued his training. For your benefit, if you're not familiar with BUDS, it takes a lot to get even nominated and to become a candidate. About 260 candidates every class, only 10 graduate. Despite losing his best friend, Brendan poured himself into training and finished as the class honor man. Not only did he finish, he was number 1. Following graduation, he married his wife Amy, deployed to Iraq 3 days later. So completing a successful deployment, he came home, and in less than a year, he was gone again to Afghanistan this time. On September 29, 2010, completing his 59th and final mission of a 7-month deployment, and on a turnover with his team's relief, Brendan perished in a helicopter crash in the mountains of Afghanistan. Kids, 2 months before Brendan passed, my oldest, Betsy, was born. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus describes the warrior this way when observing soldiers in battle. Out of every 100 men, 10 shouldn't be there. 80 are just targets. 9 are the real fighters, and we are lucky to have them, for they make the battle. But the one is a warrior, and he will bring the others back. Best friends, brothers forever, Travis Manion and Brendan Looney are now buried side by side in Arlington National Cemetery, Section 60. They were the warriors who brought everyone back, and will always wonder what more they could have given the world if only they'd had the chance. Memorial, memory, and remember. What can we do? It is said that death claims the body, God claims the soul, and those that are left behind are responsible for the legacy. Heroes, those who gave much and lost even more. Recognize the loss of the fallen, to also recognize the suffering of those who lost them. The families, the loved ones, the fellow warriors left behind. This is the reality behind the word freedom, as the Father mentioned. How we honor their sacrifice says a lot of our community and our nation. Gratitude, appreciation reflected in our deeds, in our effort, and not pity. Every name on this wall and every flag-draped coffin represent a sacrifice of the ultimate measure. Let us therefore offer more than fleeting thoughts to the fallen. Let us be reminded that we hold responsibility to those legacies by the way that we live. President Kennedy once said, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. I believe that's what my friends Travis and Brendan would want from us. To live fully, to live gratefully, to enjoy this day with our families and our loved ones. By the way, if they were here, they would absolutely do that. But not before we pause. So before we go about our lives, let us take a quiet moment to reflect on theirs. And when that moment has passed, let's carry their legacy forward, not just in memory, but in action. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for remembering. And may God bless the United States of America.
Lieutenant, where did you go? Lieutenant, on behalf of the residents of Radnor Township and the members of the Radnor Township Memorial Day Parade Committee, we would like to present you with a certificate of appreciation. And thank you for your words. God bless you.
We will now have a reading of the honor roll of Radnor Township citizens who gave their lives during wartime in service to their country. During the readings, wreaths will be placed by members of the Lieutenant S. family, Cadet Monier Sabre, Bateman Gallagher, American Legion Post 668, Poppy Queen and Poppy Princess, and the Valley Forge Military Academy Regimental Commander.
World War I, William Bateman, William Powell Cotter, Wallace Craig Dixon, Howard Ray Duran, George Farrell, Thomas Foy, Clarence Patton Freeman, Edward Gallagher, Joseph M. Gardner, Norman B. Hallman, Philip Overton Mills, Clinton Van Pelt Newbold, Joseph Ordericio, Thomas Roberts Reith, George H. Rucker, Donald Rupp III, Alec Scott, Camilo Taremi, William H.S. Schultz, Pennington H. Way.
World War II, Raymond J. Balone, Lewin Bennett Barringer, Edwin M. Blackstone, Cindy F. T. Brock, A. Ward Canizares Jr., Vincent N. Capelli, Joseph J. Carbine, James Carruthers, Samuel E. Carr, Dominic J. Castorani, John J. Chester, Ralph M. Coleflesh, Calvin G. Condiff Jr., Vincent J. Carnaccio, Anthony Leslie Cowan, George Darcy, Louis DiRicco, James DiBartolomeo, Bernard DiFrancisco Jr., Charles A. DiValerio, Albert M. Ehart Jr., Edmund A. Fagioli, Ralph J. Falcone, David Farrell, Gurney Fine, George Lee Jameson Forster, Horace E. Frame, Theodore H. Gibbs, Robert H. Handy, David Houghton, Justice D. N. Henry Jr., William A. Hogan Jr., Richard L. Holland, George Rustin Howell III, Mary Holmes Housen, George H. Hurst Jr., Alan L. Jacobs, Gordon M. Jameson, Richard Kavanaugh, Paul T. Knight, Robert R. Love, Stephen W. Marsh Jr., Albert Maxlow, Dominic A. Mazza, Charles V. McKendrick, John McPhillips Jr., Thomas J. Minnick III, Edgar D. Morris Jr., Thomas Joseph Noonan, Ralph C. Ordericio, John B. O'Hara, Gino Arazi, Ralph Pietropolo, John M. Poole III, Howard G. Potts, Samuel Felton Posey, Donald J. Roush, Walter E. Revin, Anthony S. Rich, Frederick E. Reitner Jr., Curtis K. Ritter, William Leslie Robinson, Charles E. Seward Jr., John W. Scheuer, Thomas J. Sherrock III, H. Gates Sickle, Edward Sickles, John B. Stetson III, Alan B. Stewart, Robert W. S. Stinson, J. Donald Stone Jr., Paul H. Stoll Jr., Merrill H. Tillman III, George A. Toms, Daniel N. Turner Jr., Peter Van Pelt, John Warren, Charles P. Wassel, Frank Wassel, Harry Wassel, Christine Blackadder Weston, James M. Whiteman, John T. Whiting Jr., Harry A. Winham, Eric F. Wood Jr., Robert L. Young. May their souls and the souls of all their comrades rest in peace.
The Korean War. Eloy A. Fuhrer, Pascual L. Pampa, John Vickley Jr. The Vietnam War. Roger S. Briskin, Donald D. Burris Jr., Ronald Erickson, William R. Gunter, Stephen J. Kinghorn, Lawrence J. Marshall, John P. Murphy, Thomas A. Nally Jr., A. Robert Toll.
David Brodeur, James C. Capers, George Dramas, Philip T. Esposito, Thomas Heitman, Robert Langley, Ronald Luce, Kevin S. Mole, Darrell V. Purcell Jr., Joseph Deinert, Jeffrey P. Tasklowski. May they rest in peace.
The squad leader from Bateman Gallagher, American Legion Post 668, Honor Guard, will now order the squad into position and give the order to fire 3 volleys as a salute to our fallen comrades.
Detail, port off. Half left base. Aim, up. Aim, up. Aim, up. Reset, off.
Raise the flag to full staff. To the colors. colors, order arms, parade rest.
The Valley Forge Military Academy and College Band will now play a medley of Armed Forces service hymns. We request that the veterans in attendance please raise your hand when your service anthem is played so that we may acknowledge your service to our nation and to our community. Please show your appreciation for the inspiring rendition of the service hymns performed by the Valley Forge Military Academy and College Band and their participation in today's memorial service. I would now like to introduce the chairman of the Radnor Township Memorial Day Parade Committee, Mr. Neil Fulton, who will present a certificate of appreciation to this year's Grand Marshals.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you, Bob. On behalf of the Parade Committee, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you. I also want to express my gratitude to the Radnor Township Police Department, the Radnor Township Administration, the Board of Commissioners, and finally to my fellow committee members for putting on an amazing 2025 Memorial Day Parade. So you heard Bob just a moment ago say he'd like me to introduce our Grand Marshals, plural. To my left, your right, I'd like to honor Joseph Maguire III and his wife, Virginia C. Maguire, otherwise known as Ginny. Both are lifelong residents of Radnor and graduates of Archbishop John Carroll High School. Ginny and Joe were married in 1977, and they have been blessed with 5 children and 3 precious grandchildren. This Memorial Day, their eldest son, Fire Chief Michael Maguire, to their right, escorted his parents, the Grand Marshals, on the Radnor fire engine that his grandfather, Joseph Maguire Jr., drove himself many years ago. Professionally, the Maguires have lived a life of service to Radnor Township. In 1974, Mr. Maguire joined the Radnor Fire Company and has since served at almost every entry level in the company, including Fire Chief. From 1979 through 2021, Mr. Maguire honorably served and protected the community as a member of the Radnor Township Police Department, retiring as sergeant after 42 and a half years of service. Prior to marrying Mr. Maguire, the former Miss Ginny Whiteman started her active service as a Radnor Fire Company ambulance crew chief member in 1974. And qualified to become the first female Radnor Township firefighter in 1977. Mrs. Maguire served many levels at the company and is currently an active EMT. Mrs. Maguire's father was Corporal John Whiteman, U.S. Army, serving in the South Pacific, and his brother was Sergeant James Montgomery Whiteman, United States Army, who made the ultimate sacrifice, serving in Europe in 1945. For their sacrifice, the Whitemans are honored as a Gold Star family. On behalf of the Radnor Township Memorial Day Parade Committee, we all on the committee would like to present you with this certificate of appreciation. Thank you so much for your dedication to Radnor Township, Joe and Ginny.
The benediction will be given by Father Joseph L. Nayrog, OSA, pastor of St. Thomas of Villanova Parish.
If I may, just on a personal note, want to say how honored I am to be part of this ceremony today. In my previous life, as I call it, I worked in the U.S. intelligence community for 15 years, especially in the area of counterterrorism. And it was during that time I felt called to be an Augustinian friar and priest. And it is the new Pope who also is a member of that order of St. Augustine. And so if you would allow me, as part of our benediction, to draw on him. It's noteworthy that when Pope Leo XIV stepped out on that balcony in Rome just about 2.5 weeks ago now to greet the world, his first words were, "Peace be with you all." And he went on calling us to be a people of peace. "I would like this greeting of peace to resound in your hearts," he said, "in your families, among all people, wherever they may be, in every nation and throughout the world." May we take those words in and pause this Memorial Day with deep gratitude for the fact that we can gather here this day to have the freedom to do so as people of peace. In deep gratitude for those who served and gave their lives that we might be at peace and free to work for peace and justice in our world. The peace of God be with all of you. May God bless these United States of America.
Retire the colors.
Good friends, this brings to a close the program for this year. We would like to take this opportunity to thank Lieutenant Ask, Mr. and Mrs. Maguire, the Radnor Township Fire and Police Departments, the Bateman Gallagher American Legion Post 668, the Anthony Wayne American Legion Post 418, the Valley Forge Military Academy and College Regimental Band, and all others who helped make this day possible. We'd also like to recognize the Radnor Middle School students and the Radnor Middle School PTO for conducting a Memorial Day ceremony this past Friday. We'd also like to thank all the men and women of our armed forces currently serving our country and all those who have served her faithfully in the past. We look forward with hope to a future of peace. God bless you, and God bless America.